What's up, everyone? Welcome to TanakaCon 1985, and I am here again to bring you a Game of Thrones review for Season 3, Episode 2, Dark Wings, Dark Words, and, this ain't no comic review. Alright, Game of Thrones Episode 2 of Season 3, and this has been a hell of a pickup. Damn, this episode got a lot better. This feels like the other half of what should have been in the season premiere. It's like we got the mediocre half, and then we got the even better half. The other half the better half called in sick, and they decided to bring it in this week. Well, I'm glad that this one happened when it did. Can't fit everybody into one episode, but this one was a lot more progressive. I'm sitting there, my hopes are down, partly spinning off the weaker than it should have been season finale of The Walking Dead. Then we got the season premiere of Game of Thrones, which was alright in the most minute of areas. And then I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, I gotta do this Game of Thrones thing. I sat down, watched the episode, boom, HBO goes and does us one proud. So, congratulations, guys. A lot of stuff to cover tonight, and some really good character development, and some really good situations which are progressing on now. Where do we start? Because there's a lot going on here. Yeah. Where do we start? Let's start out with the fact that Dany is absent from this episode, but that's okay. We'll get her next week. Let's start out with Bran and Rickon Stark, who we come along. Bran, who's in the middle of a dream, sees a strange boy, and he sees Robb and Jon there with him, and it's kind of reminiscent back to Season 1 where he was learning how to shoot with the bow, and he's kind of hearing his father's voice, and then we have the three-eyed crow show up, and it's basically, it's there for something, we don't know what, but, Bran's getting the inkling, hey, we've got to go north of the wall to find this thing and find out why it's, hanging around in my dreams. So he wakes up. We see Hodor, we see Osha or Asha, I can't remember which name that she goes by. Fine as fuck, though. She's sitting there whittling away on a spear and asking him if he's been warging again. Which means that he's been spiritually diving into his dire wolf and go chasing creatures through the forest. And we get some further explanation for that when we get to Jon Snow's point of view. This comes along and he's like, nah, I wasn't dreaming dreaming through my dog this time. I was dreaming about the three-eyed crow, and he kind of proceeds to explain, and she's like, whoa, stop it right there. I don't want to know about your black magic dreams. Bran doesn't know entirely what to make of that, but he knows that it's something that Ash is real upset about, and if the wildling's upset, then there's a reason that you should pay attention to it, and the boy's wise enough not to pursue it further. They're kind of worried that someone might be on their tail, and the boy's like, what's the chance of anybody finding this out here? They think we're dead. Well, come on, later in the episode, and we get the meeting with the boy from Bran's dreams. Asha stands up right behind him with that spear that she was whittling and says, either you throw down your weapons or I'm going to have you choking on your own blood. And the boy's standing there and says, hey, I don't carry weapons. And the next thing you know, a chick pops up behind Asha with a knife at her throat. But the boy says, my sister, now she carries the weapons. There's a little bit of uneasiness with everybody, but the dire wolf is up in the boy's face, growling at him, not sure what to make of him. But the boy talks the dog off, and sorry, Kaylah, if I refer to the wolves as a dog, but hey, I'm just rambling on here. The boy talks the dire wolf down, and Asha kind of relaxes slightly, and they proceed to exchange a little bit of information. Boy introduces himself as Jojen Reed, and the girl with the weapons is his sister Mira. They kind of exchange information and come to find out that their fathers were once allies in the rebellion against the Targaryen king a long time ago, and Ned actually saved the Lord Reed's life, so they became good friends. It spins out of this, and all the while that's going on, Asha and, Mirror kind of walking along and sitting there saying, I haven't seen many boys at his age that, needed women to defend themselves, but Mira sits there and says, I may carry the weapons, but that boy is far from, being as helpless as what you think he is. And that gives Ashley a little something to chew on right there. It makes him wonder, what's going to be coming up with these folks here in the future. So this was a nice little roundabout with those characters. Kind of missed them, and glad to see that we're progressing somewhere with them. Also, as well as the introduction of the Frog Kids, and no, not to confuse them with the Frog siblings of the Lost Boys. The emblem of their house is a frog, so that's why I call them that. The Frog siblings are there, and they're going to get things done. And they're going to help them on their quest to head over the wall. Well, while that's going on, we flash forward to the other kid that we missed from the season premiere as well, little Arya. Now, Arya is on the run with Gendry, the bastard son of Robert Baratheon, and in actuality, the closest thing there is to an actual heir to King's Landing, despite what claims that Stannis may say that he has to it. And they also have a fat little kid by the name of Hot Pie with them. Half of that country is starving in the show, and there's kind of a jest made at the boy's expense that he may be the reason why that half of the country is starving, which was kind of funny. But they're rolling along. They hear some horsemen come up, get up behind a stone outcropping, and we come to meet the Brotherhood Without Banners, who was hinted at last season by Lord Tywin. Now, these guys, we're going to find out a little bit more about them as the season progresses. The fact is that they are actually men who are out there for the people. Think of them sort of as a freeman's militia. Maybe even I'll go so far to say as a continental militia, kind of like what we had in the American Revolution for all the folks who weren't signed up in the actual military. Or you could even refer to them a little bit, sort of like some Sons of Liberty, as being sort of a gang of vagabonds who work for the common folk. Sort of the series Robin Hood, if you will. Yeah, I'm throwing a lot of explanations out there, but just go with that. We'll flesh them out a little bit more as the season goes on. Now, we're introduced to Thoros of Myr and an archer whose name, unfortunately, I cannot recall at this time right now. But all three of the kids are standing there pointing their swords at him and showing that they got a little bit of spit to them, especially Arya, because she's not backing down. And there's kind of this funny bit where the archer fires an arrow up into the air above Hot Pie's head and says, boy, either you put that sword down and you move, or by the time I'm done talking, you'll get a fucking arrow through your head. And the boy backs off, and just as soon as he does that, that arrow comes down within a cunt hair of him moving. And these guys are not to be taken lightly. We kind of flash forward with them later on at a tavern. They're sitting there, and there's a little bit of exchange of stories in between Arya and Thoros a little bit. But the kids, they're telling truths, but they're kind of hesitant with it. And, they're kind of like Robin Hood's merry men, and true to their word, they will let the folks go. And in fact, they're starting to as soon as that business is concluded. Arya, however, still has the mind of a child despite how tough she is. And there's kind of a point to where she whips out her sword on Thoros and says, hey, I'm pretty good at taking care of myself. Well, Thoros whips out his own sword and shows her that she's not as big a dog as she made herself out to be in that fight. Now, sometimes they have the old saying that doesn't matter about the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Well, sometimes the size does matter too. And as skilled as she thinks she is with that sword and courageous, she's apparently is nothing compared to a lot of the other people who have been out there in the world and experienced a lot more greater hardships than what this child has been through so far. But true to his word, they depart in peace, and as the kids are getting ready to leave, some more of the Brotherhood Without Banners walk through the door, and bam, they have a prisoner with a sack over his head. Let's take off the sack. Bada bing, bada boom. Who is it but a certain man? Well, actually not a man, maybe more of a dog. That's right, my friends, the Hound. He of the burnt face and a bad attitude is there with them, and while Arya sees him and tries to sneak out, dog sits there, looks at her, and says, what the fuck are you doing with the Stark bitch here? And that causes quite a commotion in the place. I guess those plans about trying to get on to Grandpa Tully have been put on hold for right now. Nicely done sequence. And these are just two on top of some other good ones in here. Now, as we get progressing, let's dash on over to the other Starks that we have right now. Now, let's drop in on Robb for a minute. The short scenes that we have with Robb are about as dismissive as what we had with him in the little time last week. Actually kind of boring. Fortunately, it was not long enough for me to lose interest in it and drift off to sleep like I was watching fucking Star Trek the Motion Picture. Now, this one, it was kind of skimmed over real quick, and we were treated actually to a nicer side of Jane Westerling. She has a different name in the show, but since I've read these stories, she's Jane Westerling to me, so there you go. Caitlin is off by herself. Now, she's got a lot of people watching her, and there's a little bit of exchange in between the old fart and Robb on him needing to remember his priorities and the fact of why he's holding his mother and needs to be going after the Kingslayer. Now, in the course of things, Caitlin is actually sitting there and knitting something that looks like a dream catcher. I don't remember what it is. Jane comes along and offers to talk with her a little bit, wifely duties and all that are expected of, royalty. And Caitlin sits there and says, No. A little more sharply than she intended to, but there's kind of a reason why she does that, and it lays it out. She explains that she's knitting these things for her children in order to protect them. And it's nothing personal, but the rule about doing it is kind of like the rule about burying your dead in the Micmac ground in Pet Cemetery. You kind of have to do this thing on your own. And she's, that's the reason why she feels that. But Jane is kind of there in a very nice, subtle way. She kind of winds up turning a bit of a listening ear toward her mother-in-law's plight. The fact is that, I didn't like Caitlin much in the books. The only redemption I had for her is the fact that she actually does love her children, and the ones that she knows are her children. But there's a bit of a confession in between her and Jane about Caitlin's feelings on Jon Snow. Now, there was a point where Robb came home from over the wall, and he's got this little baby with him. And the baby's sitting there, and it's come down with some kind of I think it was a pox or something like that. The baby's, very sick. Caitlin is so freaking upset at her husband, and she's kind of directed some of this anger towards the child. And she's sitting there, and she's, direly upset. She prays to the seven, or gods that they pray to, go ahead and kill this kid. And she kind of sits there and ponders on that for a minute, and she's terribly ashamed of wishing such a horrible fate upon this child who is blameless in this matter. And she wishes the child good health instead, and the child does go on to get better. And Ned welcomes her into her home, or welcomes the boy into his home. But, it's just something that she's always kind of struggled with, and it's kind of just a cross that she's been carrying around for a long time. So it feels good for her to be able to get that off of her chest. And this is something that did a really good job on making me feel for a character that I may not like. And certainly she still has that dislike for Jon Snow. I don't condone it, but I can at least, with this performance and this well-written scene, be able to appreciate the reason why she feels the way she does. Especially considering, I have no idea what it's like to be a mother, but I can appreciate the fact and appreciate the problems, too, of a woman who, is confronted by the fact that there's a child from her spouse that was born out of infidelity. And it was a nice job. It was a really good job of HBO making me care about a character that I would not usually do. And this job comes in twofold in this episode, too. Very nice scene with the Starks. Minus Robb. Let's flash forward over to King's Landing. You know what? I'm going to put King's Landing on break for a minute. I actually want to talk about, before we get to the Lannisters, I'm going to address them as a whole. Let's go north above the wall, because I've been kind of practicing before I shot this review, and there's just an impression that I want to get out of the way. Let's start off with Jon Snow. Now, Mr. Snow is still with Mance Rayder, and we get a much better scene of exposition in between the two of them than we did to Mance Rayder's introduction last episode, which was just kind of lackluster. Syrian Hines kind of started to become a good Mance Raider, even though he's not exactly what I pictured the character as. And we are treated to him, the Lord of Bones, and Ygritte. How can I forget Ygritte? She kissed by the fire. Kind of downplayed in this episode, but hey, that's alright. Still like the gal, though. Like her a lot. John and Mance are kind of trading back and forth over the fact that, I need to know you're still with me. And he kind of throws a couple of hard questions at the kid. Did you feel bad about killing Corn Halfhand? And the boy's like, yeah, I liked him. And Mance kind of admits that he liked him too. But, he kind of got over that real quick once he got over the wall and enjoyed his newfound freedom. Well, we get up and we find one of the wildlings is out there and he's got his eyes rolled up in his head. Look like he's been smoking something, or maybe he's been partaking in some kind of narcotic and going off on some kind of fucking Grant Morrison phrase. And actually, as it turns out, he does have some breakthroughs. Now this scene with the wildling and we see the eagle soaring above head, I think you can kind of figure it out, but John's a little slow on the uptake, so this is the Deus Ex Machina to explain for those who are not entirely caught onto it yet about the warging phase. Kind of like Bran with his dreams casting him off into his dire wolf. This man is able to join his mind with any animals, and he's able to see through their eyes. And by the eagle that has apparently been following him around, he's able to kind of survey the land and know that there's a couple of hundred crows scattered dead a distance away from him. And this kind of further reinforces some of the mistrust that a lot of the wildlings in the camp have towards Jon Snow and his presence there, in fact. This is also followed by a conversation that he and the Mance have later on. That, hey boy, you want to know how I united 7 tribes up here? Maybe a crow, but I haven't exactly been living a free life, as you might call it. Leadership has its burdens, and, I united 7 to 70 different tribes up under his banner. And you know what the thing is? We all may have been of different stock. We got problems together, but if we stand alone, we're going to die because of this threat with the White Walkers and the others which are out there. And said the only way we can survive is if we work together and head south. And hell of a job to the man for being the politician that he is and amassing this massive army as well. Doing an excellent job of it. The King Beyond the Wall is certainly a force to be reckoned with right now. And it will be interesting to see how John plays out in dealing with the king later on in this episode. Now, while we're still above the wall, let's go to the great big ball of wuss that is Samwell Tarly. Now, in the last episode, Sam was rescued from this dreaded White Walker and actually abandoned by some of his comrades, but thanks to the quick intervention of Lord Commander Mormont burning the Walker, Sam was rescued, and now he's huffing it back to camp. The lion's moving, and, a boy of his size, he's kind of manned up a little bit, but not quite enough. He's huffing it. And there's this guy just standing there, is giving him shit, fuck you, you fat fuck. I lost a lot of my comrades, and we have to, worry about saving your sorry, syphilitic ballsack ass. Why don't you just break down and cry? Roll over and die, fat boy. He can't take it no more. He's just... And finally... Oh, damn, can't see with my glasses. Go ahead and laugh it up. So, 2 of the boys come running up and they see, Samuel, red-faced, crying right there in the snow. And the other guy standing there giving him shit while the 2 guys come along, help him up, and say, you need to get your ass moving, man, or you're going to freeze to death out here. Well, lo and behold, over comes Mormont once again. What's all this shit going on here, boys? And the bully is sitting there and saying, why don't we just leave, Tarly out here? He's nothing but a problem to us. And, he's just going to leave. He's going to, be the death of us all if we keep having to worry about him. And then Mormont goes up many brownie points in my book. He comes along and he's standing there and he's saying, hey, you know what? Tarly, it gets a little tough with him. Tarly, damn it, boy, I forbid you to die while you under my command. You gonna get your ass up and you gonna march on with us. I forbid you to die. And the boy standing there is like, hey, man, why don't we just leave him behind? He ain't nothing but trouble. Now, interestingly enough, Mormont has the same idea that the Mance Raider does. Hey, we need to work together or otherwise we ain't going to make it out here. And the old bear is smart enough not to take any shit from his company. He knows what's going on, and I think he pretty well knows what everybody thinks of Tarly out there, or at least most of the troublemakers think of Tarly out there. You going to watch him. But sir, no, I ain't taking no shit from you, boy. Now, either you going to make sure that Tarwell makes it back to camp, or Tarly makes it back to camp, or you ain't gonna make it back. You understand me, boy? So, Tarly is slightly encouraged, and he gets enough of a fire lit under him where he can get moving with the help of his two comrades. And, you know what? The bear went up a lot of points in my book for that. I like the old guy. But, this guy still looks like a troublemaker right here. Now, of course, he's probably going to help Tarly to save his own ass, but I'm pretty sure that this is going to come back, and this could be a problem to come back and bite the bear in the ass later on. So there is that. It's a very good scene. I like that. Now, we've covered pretty much everyone in here. I'm going to save the best for last, though. Before we get to the best for last, let's move on to King's Landing, and let's drop in on the family of Lannister. Now, we got about 3 or 4 more interesting things going on in King's Landing than we did last episode, where we just had only one interesting thing going on. Oh, where actually to pick this, because all the parts were pretty damn good. Let's start with Joffrey and Cersei. Now, she, the bitch of the blonde hair, is sitting there with her blonde, pompous little Antichrist, and he's trying on some clothes. He's getting ready to go out somewhere in the kingdom, and his mother's sitting there counseling him on exactly why he thinks that this girl is worthy. Now, to start out with, I thought she was talking about Sansa, but then we're kind of reminded too a little bit of the fact that she was married to Renly Baratheon, another usurper, even though he's related supposedly to Joffrey. He sort of has committed high treason. Why would you take on the widow of a traitor? I was like, you know why I like her? And this is the big reason. A lot of this is drawing truth up out of folks. And this seems to be a fucking thing for a lot of this episode, is drawing up truth out of folks the hard way. Mom, you know what? You just need to mind your place. And he doesn't come right out and say it, but this show is really good about a lot of the animosity in between people mired in subtlety. Now, so the real reason I like this girl, besides the fact that she's smart and she's pretty much kissing my ass, is the fact that she knows her place as a woman. And Cersei is not really happy with this development. But there's a little bit of this conversation that plants a seed of curiosity in Joffrey. Why exactly is he infatuated with this woman besides her good qualities? Now, this kind of leads to a conversation which takes place in between Marjorie and Joffrey. And before I get to that, I need to address the introduction of Marjorie's grandmother into the series. Because this kind of leads us on into an unexpected development which takes place after this, which I'm about to talk about. We're introduced to Lady Olenna, aka the Queen of Thorns, Mother of Oaths. Her son is an oath. Loras Tyrell is a bit of an oath. And Marjorie, I like this woman. I tell you something, with Game of Thrones right here, each season they're guaranteed to introduce at least one new character that you can't help but like in some way or another, and they try to shine on with that character. Now, season 1 we got introduced to Tyrion. Now, season 2 we came along with Brienne. And I played played up enough to where I liked her, but she's kind of a character that you kind of focus on that is not a beautiful face, but still manages to win over the viewers. Lady Olenna is just a woman who speaks her mind. Now she kind of speaks her mind like that mom off of Everybody Loves Raymond, but she's not a dingbat. Think of her more like Mom or like Ma from the Golden Girls, but with a little bit more of an edge to her. I mean, like, she's got a little bit of a European flavor to her, and I like this woman. She ain't no raging Italian, but she's pretty cool, and she's just a lot of fun to watch. She actually comes and invites Sansa to lunch with her and Marjorie, and she's trying to glean out of Sansa exactly why it is, or if there's any reason why she should fear her granddaughter marrying Joffrey. Now, Sansa is still well aware that Varys and his little spiders are out there, and the Queen has ears everywhere, and something that she say could come back to bite her in the ass. Her self-preservation is very strong at this point, and seeing the image of her father's head on a pike at the beginning of Season 2 still lingers with her pretty strongly. However, it is in this episode that Olenna seems to come across as a genuine woman who cares about this child and the danger that she's in, but she's also concerned for her own family. And it takes a little bit of talking, but eventually Sansa is able to find a little of that Stark fire in her and remind us why she is Ned's daughter, and explain the situation. She says pretty much blankly what happened with Joffrey showing off the head of her old Nan and her father to her, and says that the boy is a monster. He's dangerous. And okay. And I like this scene because it gives back some character to someone who I really could not stand. Even though she is a Stark, she kind of lost me in the books, and in the last season was kind of losing me there. But she kind of, for a little bit, gets that fire back to her. This is that twofold character development I was talking about. It worked for Caitlyn, it worked for fucking Sansa in this, and it was just great. Now, there is a follow-up scene with Shay coming to visit Tyrion in his room. Tyrion walks straight off of the fact that his dad means every damn word that he said about killing the next whore that he catches his son with. But Shay is there mostly just to kind of convey that she's genuinely worried about Sansa, and even though she is Tyrion's whore, I do actually believe that she's developed a bit of a friendship with Sansa, and kind of relays the plight of the girl to Tyrion. But she gets kind of upset with Tyrion, and she's kind of playing with him here. Something kind of irks me with this girl. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to play her out from the books, because I know exactly what her role was in the books with Tyrion. But we're kind of getting something. I just got a glimpse of something that maybe she could be a bit of a game player a little bit, because she wound up playing Tyrion a little bit and playing him very well. Playing with his affections. And even though he's worried about this woman, she's got to remember, she's stroking his ego. Something's going on with her. I know exactly what it is, and even though these are spoiler-ridden reviews, I'm still not going to say, because I don't want to throw away the whole damn season. But something is up here. And speaking of something up, just as Tyrion is getting something up with her, we flash over and we take a visit in between Joffrey and Marjorie Tyrell. Now, she's visiting Joffrey as he's getting ready to go off on a hunt, and he's got a very nice looking crossbow with him, and proves himself to be a capable shot. He's got an attraction to this girl, there is no doubt about that. He likes a woman that knows her place, and kind of sees that there's maybe a little bit of Robb in him, even though he's not Robb's son, or Robert Baratheon's son. There's still something about his father that rubs off on him. And I kind of would find it funny if this was maybe the way that Robert Baratheon and Cersei kind of shared an attraction for each other when they were younger. Because even though Marjorie is smart, maybe she is still a teenage girl, and maybe there is an air of naivete about her. This has proven true, at least to me, in my opinion, when that conversation with Cersei earlier forces Joffrey to ask exactly, you are the widow of a traitor. I want to know exactly why you never made children with him. And kind of sitting there and thinking about that kind of catches Marjorie in a state of vulnerability, and she explains about the fact that a lot of characters here to keep track of. The fact that Renly, even though she was married to him, was not really interested in her. In fact, he liked dudes. And, Joffrey's kind of sitting there and taking that in. It's like, oh, really, man, that's nasty. Man, if I was I'm king in this land, I would, make that bullshit punishable by death. So, it's kind of funny that he's a little blonde-haired, blue-eyed bastard. He's almost like the heir of Aryan perfection. And it's kind of funny that they put a little bit of Hitler into him. But this moment in between them, she shares something personal about herself. And is it just me, or is Joffrey maybe kind of warming up to her a little bit? He seems to have a mutual interest in this girl now. Which is something that I certainly did not think that the show could have had happen. Maybe I'm misreading it, but for a moment, you know what? I actually thought that there was a nice little moment with Joffrey as a real human being and not a fucking sociopath. Who knows? But the boy proves himself to be a capable shot, and, him and the girl seem to be hitting it off pretty well in their arranged marriage. That is yet to come. So, we flash forward, and we are out of King's Landing. Yeah, I think that covers all the areas. Cersei and Joffrey, Marjorie, Queen of Thorns, and Sansa. We get to Shae and Tyrion, and we're done with Joffrey and Marjorie. Okay, now we're out of King's Landing. Now we make our way on over. We've done the Stark children, we've done Mama Stark, we've done Above the Wall. Now, before I get to the creme de la creme of this episode, here's a big shocker. In case you forgot, Theon is alive. Now, in the book Clash of Kings, at the end of it, we were made to believe that he had died at the end of most of the folks coming in and raiding Winterfell back from his hold. Well, actually, as it turns out, he's still alive. Almost got off on a pet peeve right here, because kind of my fault with the past season of or actually the past couple seasons of True Blood. We start pulling in stuff from further books. We're getting straight to Theon right from Dance with Dragons. But I kind of got to remember the tail end of the series, he was conked on the head and taken off. So it makes sense in this context that we would still visit him alive. Also forgot to mention, besides Danny, Davos is not in this episode. Now, Theon is getting himself tortured, and it damn sure ain't for fun with a dominatrix. He's crucified, nailed up on an X-shaped cross, and he's getting tortured. He's getting fingers broken or maybe cut off. Somebody's screwing the damn biggest corkscrew I ever seen into his foot and torturing him for answers. Now, much in the same way that Caitlyn and Sansa had to dredge up through a lot of pain, metaphorically, to get to some truths that they wanted to share. This guy is literally giving Theon some fucking pain in order to make him reveal the truth of why he went after the Stark place in the first place. Now, the only bit of truth that we gleaned from him, at least from the sound, was the fact that he's got daddy issues, and he wanted to do it for the glory of his father, who sees him as not much of a man at all. And it was a very short visit there, maybe 2 scenes that amounted to maybe all of about 3.5 to 4 minutes. But, Theon is kind of in a bad spot, but then we get a reveal, actually, that he's got an ally in the place who is maybe talking about spiriting him away out of there. Could this be? We don't know. This is something that even though I'm a book reader, it's kind of throwing out their point. I don't know where the fuck that they're going to go with this. So, for once, I'm in genuine suspense. Now, even though it's a short scene, still pretty good. There's a lot of bringing the truth out of a lot of people in this, and it's some really good stuff. Then we get to the best part of this, which, even though they kind of skimmed over it a little bit the first part, it is really a good way to end the episode. We're back with Brienne and Jaime. Brienne is still, macho woman that she is. Pretty much Tilda Swinton meets China, and she's marching around with Jaime Lannister and taking him on to King's Landing for Lady Stark to, maybe kind of broker a deal on getting her daughters back. They run into somebody who may or may not recognize them. And Jaime's trying to do everything that he can to get away from Brienne. Actually, he's talking a lot of shit to her. And, Brienne, she's kind of showing that it's kind of getting to her a little bit, some of the nasty things that he's saying to her. But at the same time, she's doing pretty good at holding on to that code of honor, trying to see this mission through. So there is a major plus to her, a major props for her character on that. Now, there's a point to where they meet this guy, he's kind of riding along, and I think, he thinks, he's no problem here. I can get on to King's Landing, but Brienne may be, strung up in that naive code of hers, but she's not entirely stupid. And it shows to the point at the end of this episode. We meet up with them later on, walking over a little bridge over a river, and, Jaime's walking along there and he's dragging his ass. And he's trying to catch Brienne off guard, and it works for this moment. She relaxes just a little bit, grabs a sword, cuts the rope. She pulls out her other sword, and them two are just going at it. And it was a very good melee sword fight in between them. Even though Jaime's trying to get away, he's sitting there and talking a lot of shit. It's written all over his face. He's fascinated by her. He senses a kindred spirit of honor. I think she's a really good sword fighter, and the fact is that Jaime is so fascinated by her because he has not been able. He's like the foremost, toughest blade in the land, and he's fighting somebody that can actually hold their own against him, and this fascinates him to no end. Well, they're exchanging back and forth, and then all of a sudden some riders show up and they reveal themselves to be Boltons. Jaime thought he was saved, but then it turns out that he's in some fucking trouble. And Brienne's knowing that they are in a bit of a pickle because she was supposed to be delivering Jaime to King's Landing in secret, and this is going to throw a problem in her way, so I'm sensing the birth of some reluctant allies here. But it is a nice scene, and I'm going to throw this out there to anybody that knows Justice League. If Warner Brothers ever got their shit together with their live-action movies, I am going to go on record as saying I think Nikolai something, whoever this guy is playing Jaime, I think he would make a good Aquaman. Just saying. It's just a little thing I'm throwing out there. But I got so caught up in the melee in between Jaime and Brienne that I forgot that when they went to black, I was like, oh wait, this episode's over. They did a really good job of getting me caught up in a lot of character stuff this time, and this really should have been included with the first episode, but I'm glad that, we're starting to pick up with the second episode. We're getting the season rolling, and things are turning out pretty fucking good. Overall, my qualm with Robb Stark still stands. Stuff with him, kind of like it was last episode, but I'll sweep it under the rug. This show has done some really good, or this particular episode has done really good at showcasing some better character development, pacing events along a little bit better, and plus making me give a fuck about two characters I would not usually do, and props to the HBO on this, props to the actresses that do the performances. I love this. I think everybody else that came off of the premiere last week with, really high expectations and just found them crashing, I think you would find them raising back up again with this. I spoke about this with Lady Kaylah a little bit ago. She was excited about this. I'm happy. We're just like we're kind of like two preteen girls just screaming our heads off at a Justin Bieber concert. This is how fucking happy we are with this episode picking up. And I think if you watch this, it will certainly wipe away the disappointment of that first episode. All in all, Season 3, Episode 2, Game of Thrones, Dark Wings, Dark Words, damn good episode. Really got me waiting in anticipation for what's going to be happening next Sunday. And a lot of good stuff in store this season, I feel. So this has been my review for the Game of Thrones. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please leave questions, comments, leave anything else you want in here. 7 days to go till next week. I'm going to be bawling my eyes out like Sam about it. But hey, that's alright. Damn good night. I'll catch you guys next week. Questions, comments, subscribe to this channel if you want to see more Game of Thrones reviews. Pop over, check out my friend TheLadyKaylah's channel. Catch our Game of Thrones thoughts. And until next week, I will see you guys later on. So have a good one.